It is the eve of the provincial election. The party leaders are making their final pitches to voters on this last full day of the campaign.
A water main break in a North York neighborhood creates a big mess for homeowners.
And we'll tell you why the price of beer in Ontario could go up.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Welcome to Live at 5. Tomorrow is Election Day in Ontario, and the main political parties are making their final pitches to voters today.
BC leader Doug Ford made several campaign stops across southwestern Ontario, including London, while NDP leader Marit Stiles stopped in Toronto and Niagara. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie visited Oakville and Mississauga, and Green Leader Mike Schreiner is campaigning in Kitchener. Polls are open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow. And
NDP leader Marit Stiles spoke to CP24 about Doug Ford's effectiveness in fighting the threat of tariffs from the U.S.
People are worried about what's coming, and they should be. And, Doug Ford called this election supposedly to deal with that, went down to Washington 2 times during this campaign. And what did we get? We got tariffs. So it hasn't been working. But what I'm hearing from people out there in our communities is they're really concerned about rising costs of everything. Rent is out of control, the cost of groceries, the situation, our healthcare system and our schools. And our plan is very focused on addressing those immediate challenges that Ontarians have. We cannot afford another 4 years of this.
Ontario PC leader Doug Ford campaigned this morning in Oldcastle. This is where he continued to push back against the Trump tariffs and positioned himself as the best candidate to deal with the possible trade war.
No one agrees with President Trump declaring an economic war against his closest ally, his closest friend. So, folks, we're going to fight like we've never fought before. I'm going to make sure we protect the families, we're going to protect the businesses, protect the jobs, and we're going to protect the communities. And we're going to get through this. Over the last 7 years, we've seen over 1 million more people employed than we did 7 years ago.
And Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie made a stop in Oakville earlier today.
You can trust Ontario's Liberals to do more for you and to get it right. Doug Ford has made a lot of promises over the years. He said he'd end hallway health care. He didn't get it done. He said he'd cut your taxes. He didn't get that done. He said he'd build 1.5 million homes, and he didn't get that done either. Our pledge and our commitment is to ensure that the 2.5 million people who don't have a family doctor in Ontario today have a doctor within 4 years, and that wait times are eliminated in our hospitals.
Green Leader Mike Schreiner met with his constituents at an event in Kitchener today and show of support with candidate Ashley Clancy, the only other Green elected in the last election.
And the latest poll from Nanos Research shows the Progressive Conservatives continue to hold a lead over the Liberals, with voters in the province set to go to the polls tomorrow night.
Let's turn to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who joins us live from the newsroom to go over the data and break down the numbers. Beatrice.
Bakari, Lena, the latest data from Nick Nanos for CP24 and CTV News showing that Doug Ford and his party, the Progressive Conservatives, have quite a comfortable lead. It also, though, shows that Bonnie Crombie and the Liberals are making some headway. They're not doing it, though, at the expense of the PCs. They're doing it at the expense of the New Democrats. Keep in mind, the last couple of weeks, Bonnie Crombie has really been making her pitch to NDP voters, saying, hey, let's work together. Let's not split the vote. Let's coalesce, really, to join together to stop Doug Ford and the PCs from winning certain ridings, especially. And the numbers seem to suggest that pitch could very well be making a difference. Let's show you what the numbers are by Nick Nanos. It shows support for the PCs up just 0.3%. So they now sit at 45.7. The Liberals up 2.6, sitting at 31.9. Have a look at the NDP, down 2.3, 16.5% support. And the Greens also down 0.5 percentage point at 3.8%. As for battleground ridings, and there always are some of those, Nick Nanos talked to me on the couch earlier today out here in Scarborough, saying there are some key ridings to watch in Toronto, and there's some key ridings to watch in the west portion of the GTHA. Listen.
And the 905, the Mississaugas are ones to watch. They're coveted by all the parties. The thing is that when you look at, that part of the province, Doug Ford and Bonnie Crombie is from the same area. It's kind of unusual to have two provincial party leaders that have the same geographic base. And, the challenge is that if one wins, the other one loses, it's usually really bad news for the loser. And, so I'd look at the Mississauga, Bramptons, downtown Ottawa for the New Democrats, probably. And then some of the seats in Toronto, that'll be fights between the New Democrats and the Liberals.
Also, people selecting Doug Ford, according to Nick Nanos' data, to be the premier, sitting at just over 40% support. Bonnie Crombie in second, Marit Stiles in third, and Green Party leader Mike Schreiner sitting in fourth. You heard Nick Nanos there mention the Mississaugas. Well, Bonnie Crombie running in Mississauga, East Cooksville, against a PC candidate who also happens to be Patrick Brown's mother-in-law. So that'll be an interesting race to watch. And of course, the more people turn out to vote, the better democracy is being exercised. Keep in mind, in 2022, the lowest voter turnout in this province ever at just a dismal 43%. We'll wait and see what happens tomorrow with voters.
Yeah, and the advanced polling numbers certainly don't look good, so we're going to keep an eye on that voter turnout number. Beatrice, thank you for this. Well, Ontario's opposition leaders are seeking answers after a recording surfaced purporting to show PC staffer and candidate Sarah Bukhari asking for donations in exchange for political favors.
आपकी फाइल जब तक मूव नहीं होएगी जब तक मुझे मेरा डोनेशन नहीं मिलता मेरे से क्लेवर कोई ना प्ले करे आई एम वेरी वेल कनेक्टेड पहले से बता रही हूँ और मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा जिस तरह आप मुझे डील करें कि $100 दे दें 50 दे दें या 50 सेंट्स दे दें ये मैं फकीर नहीं हूँ ये मैं बहुत बड़ी बड़ी डील्स कराती हूँ तो मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा आपने फिर मेरी इंसल्ट की है ये आपकी फाइल मूव नहीं होगी सिटी प्लानर पे जब तक आप मेरा डोनेशन मुझे नहीं देंगे ठीक है थैंक यू वेरी मच
Sarah Bukhari is running for Conservatives in the Hamilton Centre riding, previously held by former NDP MPP Sarah Jama, who most recently sat as an independent.
Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie wants both Doug Ford and law enforcement to investigate that recording.
The recording appears to show that this candidate, Sarah Bukhari, asking for money for a political donation in exchange for action on a permit at City Hall. This candidate also happens to be a political staffer at Queen's Park. And in these last few busy days of the campaign, I know that Doug Ford wishes that you didn't hear about this video.
And the NDP posted to social media. Very troubling. If this is PC candidate Sarah Bukhari, who's also a member of Doug Ford's staff, then we need answers for why his team is shaking down Ontarians for quid pro quos and donations.
And a PC campaign spokesperson says the recording was taken out of context and suggests she's being smeared.
A statement reads, quote, Ms. Bukhari was not working for the government at the time of this phone call. She was voluntarily working with Dr. Arsad Mahmoud, the other individual on the call, and made the comment in jest to someone she believed was a friend. But Ms. Bukhari rebuffed his inappropriate sexual advances and propositions for sex. The doctor released an edited version of the phone call to smear the candidate. Well, Ms. Bukhari will be notifying the police and the Regulatory College.
Okay, we're going to have more on the election campaign throughout the evening, and stay tuned for extensive coverage right here on CP24 and CTV News tomorrow night. Well, beer lovers in the province may soon have to pay a little more to enjoy some pints.
The LCBO plans to increase the fee that it charges its brewers. That'll raise the cost of beer for all retailers. The fee's going up by 4.4%. The increase is set to take effect April 1st.
The Ontario PC Party campaign released a statement, and that reads, reselected PC government would not proceed with this increase.
All right, it's 5:09. Let's get a check on the evening commute with TP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa Intia Yabwa. Adj.
Yeah, the sun's starting to set, guys, so it's creating a little bit of a visual delay for commuters, blinding their drive. So make sure your sunnies are available if you are making your way out at this time of day. Outside of all of that, with the sunshine blinding the drive, we are dealing with problems slowing down the drive. So this is the eastbound 401 in the collectors through Dixie. It's the two right lanes that are out following this collision. Then westbound 401 not really moving, more so in the express, starting from the the Don Valley Parkway into Mississauga through to approaching Mississauga Road. We're in the express. Right lane and shoulder there blocked following a collision. More problems on the Gardner that look like they finally cleared, or no, they just zoomed out. So this is the Gardner westbound. Just as you make your way past Spadina, it is the right lane that is blocked, and that is following a stalled vehicle. And on city streets, a collision blocking lanes on southbound Don Mills at Fairview, and getting word of a police investigation blocking Danforth between Greenwood and Monarch Park. I'll send it back to you.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Hamilton police are continuing to search a landfill for a woman who's been missing since December, and investigators believe she may have been killed.
For the latest, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Rott. Steve.
Yeah, Bakari Alina, the Glanbrook landfill site is where the Hamilton police have focused their attention for the last couple of days. They're looking for the remains of Shalini Singh. Police tell us that she was last heard from on December the 4th. She had contact with her family, and she hadn't been heard from since that time. She was in the company of her common law boyfriend at the time. So on December the 10th, the family was so concerned for her well-being that they contacted the police. The police attended. They took a statement from the family, completed a missing persons report. Based on the information that the family provided to the police, they themselves became concerned for Shalini's well-being. Now, they do believe that she may have been murdered in her apartment, and then those remains were put into a garbage disposal unit and then made their way here to a landfill. Now, on December the 11th, her common-law boyfriend showed up at a family home. The police went to speak with him, but he refused to cooperate with them, so he is no help with regards to him being a witness without him giving information as to what may have happened to Shalini. So he has to be cleared some way or another because of the fact that he is an intimate partner. Statistics tell us that if a woman is murdered, it's typically a past or present intimate partner. So that is the first place that any investigator will go to, and that would be present or past partners. Clear them and then move on to other suspects. But right now, the Hamilton police have those suspects, and they are looking for information with regards to Shalini's disappearance, and if anybody has any information, they are being asked to give the Hamilton police a call. In the meantime, I am told that they will be here at this Glanbrook landfill site for some time to come. Send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan, live for us this evening. Thank you for this, Steve. Well, a boy is facing criminal charges after police responded to a high school in Northumberland County for reports of a student making threats with a weapon.
Police presence could be seen at Campbellford District High School following the arrest. OPP say a handgun, ammunition, and a number of edged weapons were recovered during the incident yesterday. This was yesterday afternoon. The school was put in lockdown as a result. No one was hurt. The suspect, a 15-year-old boy from Havelock, has been charged with 8 offenses.
It's 5:13, 5 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
A water main break in North York is causing problems for home and business owners. We're going to hear from some of them next.
Welcome back. A water main break in North York is causing a big mess for homeowners.
Here's what it looked like on Pelmo Crescent overnight. A significant amount of water can be seen on the street. And residents are being urged to check their basements for flooding. And for more on this, we're joined live by CP24's Arda Zakarian, who's at the scene. Arda.
Bakari and Lena, imagine waking up 4 a.m. in the morning to 2 feet of water in your basement. That's exactly many residents here on Pelmo Crescent. This is in the area of Jane and Black Creek Drive. Because of this water main break, the entire street was flooded. It was like a river here. We had a chance to speak with one of the residents.
I thought we were filming a movie. Like, I was expecting to see Leonardo DiCaprio in my basement, so it was that good. Yeah, so you feel that real. So, yeah. And then they are still here. They told us they shut off the water. They shut off the furnace, so we don't have a heater. And then the water and the gas as well. So we are not cooking, nothing. They told us not to turn on anything.
And there is a statement from the city which reads in part that the water main has been shut off to prevent further flooding. Some residential homes in the area have been impacted. Emergency crews are on site to assess the situation and conduct emergency repairs. Once the crews have completed their investigation, the city will provide an estimated timeline for when repairs will be completed. The road will remain closed until further notice. And I did take a look at the repairs that are being done. It's quite extensive. They've dug a big hole in the in the street there. And in order for them to repair everything, it's going to take them a while. Back to you.
Okay, Arda, thanks so much for this. 5:16, 5 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, the latest on the tariff threat and what Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown wants to do about it.
Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump says he has no plans of stopping tariffs on Canada and Mexico. At a cabinet meeting in Washington, Trump also repeated his desire for Canada to become a 51st state.
When I spoke to, let's call it the prime minister rather than the governor, but when I spoke to him, I said, why are we giving you $200 billion a year? He was unable to answer the question. I said, why are we letting you make millions of cars and send them in? He was unable to answer the question. Justin Trudeau, nice guy. I think he's a very good guy. I call him Governor Trudeau. He should be governor, because the fact is that if we don't give them cars, we don't have to give them cars. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell cars into the United States. The tariffs will make it impossible for them to sell lumber or anything else into the United States.
The Canadian Labour Congress is hosting an emergency meeting tonight to discuss the effect of U.S. tariffs on workers and communities. The meeting is going to be held virtually. It'll be attended by leaders from unions representing over 3 million workers from all sectors across the country. The group says now is the time to diversify trade and is urging the country to develop a comprehensive worker-first strategy to protect jobs and industries from economic disruption.
And Canada is set to be hit with a 25% tariff on most imports and a 10% duty on energy next week. But a White House official says that timeline could change. When Trump postponed implementing the tariffs this month, he said the pause could allow time to reach what he called a final economic deal. The White House official says the tariffs are currently scheduled to be reinstated on March 4th, but that could change pending ongoing negotiations. So Donald Trump keeping us on our toes once again. However, the administration added there is no progress to share when it comes to these talks.
And Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown is creating a tariff task force to help coordinate response to what could be a major impact on Canadian business.
CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live with the latest on what Mayor Brown is saying tonight. Lindsay.
Right, and this is really Mayor Brown's way of kind of offsetting the impact that these tariffs might have on his city, the city of Brampton. And it's really interesting to watch different politicians, Lena and Bakari, from different levels of government try to do what they can to lessen the impact of these tariffs. So we're talking about that mayor's tariff task force. This is something that Mayor Patrick Brown says has gone through City Hall, and now at this point, really, there's 3 focuses of this when it comes to kind of fighting back against these tariffs. The first part is city-to-city engagement. We're talking about U.S. municipalities. So, of course, the city of Brampton engaging with more U.S. municipalities and businesses, and also business outreach, so working directly with U.S. businesses, and then diversifying trade relations as well. So, you've heard Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talk about this. You've heard the Premier Doug Ford talk about this, relying less on trade with the U.S. and starting to be more self-sustaining, but also rely on trade with other countries as well. So that is a part of Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown's task force, one of those focuses as well. He joined CP24 today to talk about this task force and why he feels it's needed. Here's what he had to say.
When Canadians are confronted with a challenge, we can meet it. Canada does have numerous preferential trade agreements around the world that creates export opportunities. I think we've been a little bit lazy at chasing those opportunities, and now I think there's an opportunity for us to do it. There's also, of course, opportunities to really tear apart interprovincial trade barriers that still exist in Canada. So right now, that's the focus of our Economic Development Department. We're setting up a task force today to really partner with local businesses to help them hands-on, look for new markets, help make those introductions.
And as you both mentioned, those U.S. tariffs, everyone waiting, watching to see when and if they will come into effect. And the latest we've heard from U.S. President Donald Trump is that they will be coming in effect on April 2nd, which is just really not that far away at this point. Lena, Bakari.
Okay, it's been a moving target, but here we go. Lindsay Biscaya live in studio tonight, newsroom tonight, I should say, in the newsroom. Thanks, Lindsay. Well, a parliamentary petition urging Ottawa to ban U.S. President Donald Trump from entering Canada is gaining steam.
Yeah, more than 28,000 people have signed the petition. It seeks to bar Trump from coming into the country for repeatedly threatening Canada's sovereignty. It also notes that Trump's a convicted felon, which is something that can make people inadmissible to Canada. The petition was created by an Alberta man and sponsored by NDP MP Charlie Angus. It comes ahead of the G7 leaders meeting, which the president usually attends, and is said to be held in Canada this year.
It is 5:23, 5 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And best known for playing Buffy's little sister, actor Michelle Trachtenberg was found dead in New York. This story.
Michelle Trachtenberg, the actor known for her roles in Gossip Girl and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, has died.
New York City police say that they responded to a call at a residential building in Manhattan today, and they found Trachtenberg unresponsive. She was pronounced dead on the scene. At this point, investigators do not believe her death is criminal in nature. And Trachtenberg rose to fame at the age of 10 as a title character in the 1996 film Harriet the Spy. Trachtenberg was 39.
So young. Well, students across the country are wearing pink today to take a stand against bullying.
Yeah, Pink Shirt Day was first organized in 2007 by students in Nova Scotia to show support for a boy who was bullied for wearing pink. The event is now meant to raise awareness about the harms of bullying, raise funds for anti-bullying programs, and foster conversations about kindness and inclusion.
And bullying can be a problem in the workplace as well. As the schoolyard and anti-bullying trainer, Neskins Dorsalis spoke to CP24 about, and he talked about the importance of keeping the office free of toxicity.
Many times something may not be bullying, but it is still toxic. So addressing the toxicity is extremely important. And in doing that, one of the key things is understanding the impact. One of the impact of it is shame. And please understand, shame and guilt are not the same thing. Guilt is the understanding that we have done something wrong. Shame is the constant belief that something is wrong with me. And if something is wrong with me, I cannot do nothing right. And when we have professionals that constantly believe because of their environment something is wrong with them, they do not operate to the best of their ability.
And the Pink Shirt Day organization has raised more than $3 million for youth anti-bullying services since 2008.
Such a great initiative. You're watching Live at 5 on Toronto's Breaking News, CP24.
It's the eve of the provincial election. The party leaders are making their final pitches to voters on the last full day of the campaign. It's the eve of the provincial election. The party leaders are making their final pitches to voters on the last full day of the campaign.
A water main break in a North York neighborhood creates a big mess for homeowners. We'll tell you all about it coming up.
And we'll tell you why the price of beer in Ontario could go up.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Tomorrow is Election Day in Ontario, and the main political parties are making their final pitches to voters today.
PC leader Doug Ford made several campaign stops across southwestern Ontario, including London, while NDP leader Marit Stiles stopped in Toronto and Niagara. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie visited Oakville and Mississauga today, and Green Leader Mike Schreiner is campaigning in Kitchener. Polls are open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow.
Ontario PC leader Doug Ford campaigned this morning in Oldcastle. This is where he continued to push back against the Trump tariff threats and position himself as the best candidate to deal with a possible trade war.
Well, I just want to win. I don't look at the numbers. I just want to win. I want to win a majority, a large majority, until we send a message. We send a message down to Donald Trump that we're a force to be reckoned with, the people of Ontario. We have a clear mandate, and we're going to fight like we've never fought before to make sure we protect the people's jobs and make sure we protect people's families and businesses. That's what we're going to do. It's a united Ontario. It's a united Canada. I've never seen patriotism like this run so wild across this great country of ours.
NDP leader Marit Stiles spoke to us this morning and says she is in it to win it.
I'm a fighter. I'm not quitting anytime soon. I'm fighting right till the end. I've got 48 hours to flip blue ridings to orange. That's our aim. Doug Ford thought he could get away with this election. I think he won't. But I'll say this as well to folks out there watching. I mean, I think the Liberals think that they are entitled to your vote. The Liberal leader right now has received donations from private healthcare insiders, from Greenbelt developers. I don't think anybody should settle for that.
Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie made a stop in Oakville earlier today.
You can trust Ontario's Liberals to do more for you and to get it right. Doug Ford has made a lot of promises over the years. He said he'd end hallway health care. He didn't get it done. He said he'd cut your taxes. He didn't get that done. He said he'd build 1.5 million homes, and he didn't get that done either. Our pledge and our commitment is to ensure that the 2.5 million people who don't have a family doctor in Ontario today have a doctor within 4 years, and that wait times are eliminated in our hospitals.
And Green Leader Mike Schreiner met with his constituents at an event in Kitchener today in a show of support with candidate Aislinn Clancy, the only other Green elected in the last election.
Oh, the latest poll from Nanos Research shows that progressive conservatives continue to hold the lead over the Liberals, with voters in the province set to go to the polls tomorrow.
Let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who's live from our newsroom, to go over the data and break down these numbers. Beatrice.
Lena Bakari, I think a lot of people are eagerly watching at least some battleground parts of the province for tomorrow. And according to the latest numbers from Nick Nanos and Nanos Research, the PCs do still have a pretty comfortable lead. In fact, it's a double-digit lead. The interesting thing here, and you heard the NDP leader Marit Stiles talking about it there, there's kind of this battle for the progressive vote. The NDP and the Liberals both essentially courting much of the same base, and Bonnie Crombie has been out talking the last couple of weeks, appealing directly to historic NDP voters, saying, we know you typically vote for the New Democrats, but why don't you come over and join us in the Liberals, and let's make an effort to try to avoid splitting the vote and essentially creating a path to victory for Doug Ford and the PCs. How do the numbers break down today versus yesterday? Here's a look from Nick Nanos. 45.7% for the Progressive Conservatives. That's up just 0.3%. Bonnie Crombie gaining 2.6%, now at 31.9%. Marit Stiles losing 2.3%, sitting at 16.5%. And the Greens down half a percentage point, now sitting at 3.8%. Toronto proper, the urban ridings historically tend to be Liberal, NDP, the vote-rich 905. That's often battleground areas. And in Toronto proper, Nick Nanos predicting a duke-out between the Liberals and the New Democrats. Listen.
The thing is that, the Toronto core, Toronto proper, is probably the most competitive landscape in the whole province because, the Progressive Conservatives are a factor. It's been a toss-up. The Liberals have been, at some points in the campaign, they've been pulling ahead of the PCs, and, now it's basically a statistical toss-up, and it's also good for the New Democrats.
Nick Nanos pointing out the Mississauga ridings, Brampton, those are going to be interesting to watch. Keep in mind Bonnie Crombie running in Mississauga, East Cooksville against Patrick Brown's mother-in-law, Doug Ford, in neighboring Etobicoke. They're kind of battling for the same people, though his data suggests the people who know they're voting for Doug Ford really know they're voting. In fact, the numbers for who people choose as their next premier, when you look at how those break down, 40.8% choosing Doug Ford, Bonnie Crombie sitting in second, Marit Stiles in third, and Mike Schreiner in fourth. There's the numbers on your screen right there. And so the reality is it could potentially come down to a close race between the Liberals and the NDP in certain ridings, especially in Toronto proper. But we need the voters to turn out. The advanced polling, 3 days last week, just over 6.1% of eligible voters cast their ballots. The last provincial election in 2022, the lowest voter turnout ever in the history of this province. Who does low voter turnout tend to benefit? The incumbent. So we'll have to wait and see what happens tomorrow, but it's certainly things are going to be interesting over the course of the next 24 hours, guys.
Yeah, and this election is in the dead of winter, so voter turnout will definitely be a concern. Beatrice, thank you for this. Well, tomorrow's election is the first to be held in February, as we were just talking about, in well over a century, raising questions about whether the weather could really impact voter turnout.
And with more, let's go live to CP24, Sija Liu. Sija.
Bakari, Lena, that is certainly an issue top of mind for officials and how Election Ontario officials are preparing. This is the first time in over 140 years that we are having a February election. And when you consider the major storms and the cleanup we've had over the last few weeks, that will certainly play a factor as well. Conditions were great today, but tomorrow we are going to see a chance of snow and flurries move in early in the day. Election Ontario officials say polling hours could be extended if weather becomes an issue, and they do have contingency plans in place. As for how they are preparing today, there are about 55,000 Election Ontario workers who will be working across the province. They will be out front of the facilities, clearing any walkways from snow, making sure that they're accessible. The City of Toronto says all hands are on deck right now. They are utilizing all crews available, from house road maintenance crew to parks and recreation staff, calling in extra contractors to make sure that these polling stations are easy to access and that everyone is able to get in. Earlier today, we spoke to some people on the streets today ahead of Election Day to see how they're feeling and to ask about the issues most important to them. Take a listen.
The economy is very important. I have, I have 4 sons. I have a large family, so I'm very conscious about how the economy is doing. Community safety is very important to me. We do live in a sort of transitional neighborhood, so that's important, as well as schooling and what's going on in the school systems.
I think it's good modeling for my children so that they vote, and it's important. If you can vote, you should vote. You should have a say.
I think it's really important to get out there and at least let my opinion be known, and especially if you do your research and make sure you're voting for the person who sets kind of the same values as you and is hoping to make the city a better place.
Most of the people we spoke to today say they have their mind set on voting tomorrow, rain, snow, or shine, that it's important to make sure you get your vote out there and have your voice heard. But considering last provincial election in 2022, there was record low turnout. You factored that with the winter election. Selena Bakari, voter turnout and whether people or not will brave the winter weather. We'll find that out when the day comes tomorrow.
Okay, CP24, Sijalu, thanks a lot. Ontario's opposition leaders are seeking answers after a recording surfaced purporting to show PC staffer and candidate Sarah Buhari asking for donations in exchange for political favors.
आपकी फाइल जब तक मूव नहीं होएगी जब तक मुझे मेरा डोनेशन नहीं मिलता मेरे से क्लेवर कोई ना प्ले करे आई एम वेरी वेल कनेक्टेड पहले से बता रही हूँ और मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा जिस तरह आप मुझे डील करें कि $100 दे दें 50 दे दें या 50 सेंट्स दे दें ये मैं फकीर नहीं हूँ ये मैं बहुत बड़ी बड़ी डील्स कराती हूँ तो मुझे बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं लगा आपने फिर मेरी इंसल्ट की है ये आपकी फाइल मूव नहीं होगी सिटी प्लानर पे जब तक आप मेरा डोनेशन मुझे नहीं देंगे ठीक है थैंक यू वेरी मच.
So Sarah Bukhari running for the Conservatives in the Hamilton Centre riding, previously held by former NDP MPP Sarah Jama, who most recently sat as an independent.
Well, Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie wants both Doug Ford and law enforcement to investigate the recording.
This is serious, and it also requires immediate attention. Doug Ford must make it very clear, that this kind of alleged behavior is unacceptable to him and unacceptable to Ontario Conservatives right now. The people of Ontario need to know where Doug Ford stands on this very serious issue.
Well, the NDP posted to social media, very troubling. If this is PC candidate Sarah Bukhari, who is also a member of Doug Ford's staff, then we need answers for why his team is shaking down Ontarians for quid pro quos and donations.
Now, a PC campaign spokesperson says the recording was taken out of context and suggests she is being smeared. A statement was issued. Let's try and see if we can pull that up for you. There we have it. It says Ms. Bukhari was not working for the government at the time of this phone call. She was voluntarily working with Dr. Arshad Mahmood, the other individual on the call, and made the comments in jest to someone she believed was a friend. When Ms. Bukhari rebuffed his inappropriate sexual advances and propositions for sex, the doctor released an edited version of the phone call to smear the candidate. Ms. Bukhari will be notifying the police and the Regulatory College.
Okay, beer lovers in the province may soon have to pay a little bit more to enjoy some pints.
The LCBO plans to increase the fee it'll charge its brewers. That'll raise the cost of beer for all retailers. The fee is going up by 4.4%. That increase is set to take effect on April 1st. Now, the Ontario PCs released a statement, and that reads, a re-elected PC government would not proceed with this increase.
Stay with CP24 for everything you need to know about the election. We'll have special election coverage, including a focus on key ridings and analysis tomorrow night starting at 7. You can also get the latest information on CP24.com and the CP24 app.
It's 5:42, 5 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
A water main break in North York is causing problems for home and business owners. We'll hear from some of them next.
A water main break in North York is causing for a big mess for homeowners.
Okay, here's what it looked like. This was on Pelmo Crescent overnight. A significant amount of water can be seen on the street, and residents are being urged to check their basements for flooding. And for more on this, we're joined live by CP24's Arda Zakarian, who's at the scene. Arda.
I'm on Pelmo Crescent right now, and I can tell you it's very muddy here. This was once basically a river here on Pelmo Crescent. Now the water main break is being repaired. There's no timeline as to when it will be done, but I can tell you that people woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning with 2 feet of water in their basement, and everything, all their belongings, their personal things, memories, tools, electrical equipment. It was all floating. We spoke to one resident.
My sons, they live in the house as well, and we were in the basement, and we heard something dropping like really hard, and then I got up, and then it was in the middle of water, like up to our knees. The shoes were floating, books were floating, everything.
A statement from the city reads in part, the water main has been shut off to prevent further flooding. Some residential homes in the area have been impacted. Emergency crews are on site to assess the situation and conduct emergency repairs. Once the crews have completed their investigation, the city will provide an estimated timeline for when repairs will be completed. The road will remain closed until further notice. I kept in touch with the city. They don't have a timeline as of yet, but I can tell you, just going over there, there's a big hole in the middle of the street, so it is going to take a while. Back to you.
All right, CP24's Arda Zakarian. Arda, thanks a lot. It's 5:46, 5 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, a new type of coronavirus has been found in bats in Wuhan. Stay with us.
The Vatican says that Pope Francis' condition has improved slightly as he continues to battle pneumonia.
The 88-year-old pontiff has been in hospital since February 14th with what is being described as a complex lung infection. The Vatican says a chest scan showed what it called the normal evolution of an infection as it is treated. It says a kidney insufficiency detected a few days ago has also receded. The Pope is continuing to receive high flows of oxygen but hasn't had any further respiratory crises. Doctors say the Pope isn't out of danger yet, and their outlook remains guarded.
Well, tens of thousands of mourners lined highways in southern Israel to pay respects to a woman and her 2 young sons killed in captivity in Gaza.
The bodies of Shiri Bibas and her children, Ariel and Kafir, were carried in a procession from central Israel to the cemetery near the kibbutz where the family was abducted on October 7th, 2023. Hundreds of motorcycles draped in Israeli flags and orange ribbons rode behind the convoy.
And the plight of the Bibas family has come to symbolize the profound grief still permeating Israel 16 months after the Hamas attack. Israel says evidence shows the boys were killed by their captors weeks after being abducted, while Hamas says the family died in an Israeli airstrike.
And Hamas will return the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages tomorrow in exchange for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. It comes just days before the first phase of the ceasefire expires. Israel has delayed the release of about 600 Palestinian detainees since Saturday to protest what it says is the cruel treatment of hostages during their release. Hamas says the delay is a serious violation of their ceasefire and that talks on a second phase are not possible until the Palestinians are freed.
Ukraine's president is expected to visit Washington later this week to sign a deal on rare earth minerals with U.S. President Donald Trump.
I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal.
Ukrainian officials say the two countries have reached an agreement to jointly develop Ukraine's mineral resources. Rare earth minerals are used to make batteries, magnets, motors, and other electronics. Trump has been calling for access to Ukrainian minerals as a form of repayment for American military aid. Reports say the deal does not include security guarantees for Ukraine. Well, scientists in Wuhan, China, have detected a new strain of coronavirus in bats.
So according to a study published last week in the journal Cell, the newly identified strain can infect humans in a similar way to COVID-19. Right now, there are no reported infections in humans. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says at this point, the new strain does not pose a threat to public health.
At least 18 people are dead after a bus overturned in eastern Thailand.
The incident occurred during an overnight journey from the northern part of the country to a coastal province. 31 others were injured. Authorities are looking into what caused the rollover and say they will step up inspections of all public transport vehicles to make sure they meet safety standards.
An Australian couple is speaking out against Qatar Airways after saying they were forced to sit next to a dead body during a long-haul flight.
So they looked a bit frustrated, and then they just looked at me and saw seats were available beside me. My wife was on the other side. We were in a row of 4 by ourselves, and they just said to me, "Can you move over, please?" And I just said yes, no problem. And then they placed the lady in the chair that I was in.
That was Mitchell Ring, who says that the woman died partway through a 14-hour trip between Melbourne and Doha. The crew was not able to move her body to another part of the plane, so they placed her next to the couple and draped her with a blanket. Ring says that there were empty seats available and he had to sit next to the corpse for hours. Qatar Airways issued a statement apologizing for any inconvenience or distress the incident caused.
5:53, 5 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, some tough talk today from the new American head coach of the Canadian men's soccer team. The new American head coach of Canada's men's national soccer team weighed in on the tensions between the two countries today and had some pointed words for President Trump.
If I have one message to our president, it's lay off the ridiculous rhetoric about Canada being the 51st state. As an American, I'm ashamed, right, of the arrogance and disregard that we've shown one of our historically oldest, strongest, and most loyal allies.
Jesse Marsh made the remarks as Canada is preparing to play Mexico in the CONCACAF Nations League semifinals on March 20th. A victory would see the Canadians advance to play either the U.S. or Panama in the finals on March 23rd.
Students across the country are wearing pink today to take a stand against bullying.
Pink Shirt Day was first organized in 2007 by students in Nova Scotia to show support for a boy who was bullied for wearing pink. The event is now meant to raise awareness about the harms of bullying, raise funds for anti-bullying programs, and foster conversations about kindness and inclusion.
Well, bullying can also be a problem in the workplace as well as the schoolyard. And anti-bullying trainer Neskins Dorcelis talked to CP24 about how to address toxicity in the office.
Often when something is messy, we don't want to address it. We want to walk away from it. But working away from it doesn't solve the problem. So addressing it and providing the tool for how we do it is extremely important. And in that tools is helping the people to see sometimes intention doesn't always create impact. We often believe, especially leaders, that because I got good intention, that automatically means I'm making a great impact, but that's not always the key. And the second aspect is feedback. How do we provide effective feedback in addressing the sensitive topic?
You know, growing up, we did not have Pink Shirt Day, but it's great to hear that people are having conversations about this because it's a very real issue and it needs to be talked about, right?
Yeah.
The Pink Shirt Day organization has raised more than $3 million for youth anti-bullying initiatives since 2008. So some really meaningful work there.
It's 5:58. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Ontarians head to the polls tomorrow. It is Election Day in Ontario. And tonight is the eve of the election. Stay with CP24 for everything you need to know. We're going to have special coverage, including a focus on key ridings and analysis starting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Our crews and cameras, they're going to be everywhere, and we're going to have lots of political reaction as well. So stay tuned for that coverage.
Yeah, thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is coming right up.